Good afternoon, Dan Sileo, National Football Show. Big Seal's a little too full of himself yesterday. Get used to it. Get used to it, my friends. And we drop a how you doing. Today, the Cowboys report. Here we are, man. Football season. Steelers and Cowboys today. We're here, man. We're here. This is football season now. Okay? Teams are getting ready to rock and roll for the 2021 season. All the other sports are kind of like looking up at the NFL. And for that matter, college football's got some great content. You see, I got to tell you this, man, as we get ready for the football season, Big Seals is the king of chaos. I like storylines. I don't care what they are. No caring what they are. Oh, wait a minute. My boy Krause, man, no, please no vaccination. Oh, okay, I know. Still going to be a storyline, though. I don't want to hear. I know. But it's a button pusher there for a lot of people out there. Oh, you're anti, are you? I'm not anti anything, man. You know what I'm anti? I'm anti-Nazis. That's what I'm anti. Okay, those are the only people in the world I hate. Other than that, dude, I don't really care about anything else in life. Oh, well, I like my hamburgers like, a little bit more well done than others. I'm not a blood guy, so I mean, but I don't hate very many things because you know why? Whatever gets content and clicks, I guess nowadays, got to add the clicks into it. That's what I'm all about. Okay? That's what I'm all about. It's funny. I was talking to my boy Krause. You know what? He was talking to me about, I don't care if a guy gets clicks and a guy is polarizing and a person is somebody people want to hear, then we're going to put him on. I don't care if I like him or not. Has nothing to do with it. That's exactly correct. That's what we do here, man. That's why we ask questions and we kind of like sneak some tricky questions in. I'll give you, for instance, before you move on here. By the way, John McMullen from Birds 365 will be on with us. He and Jody do a fabulous job here on the JAKIB Media channel. He'll be at the bottom of the hour. Tell people this all the time, man. Hey, if I could get OJ on, I am. Yeah, but nothing. He killed. I know the story. It's been played out, and I've seen it in movies. I know the book. Oh, why would you go watch a movie like the Titanic? I know it hits the iceberg and sinks. Okay? But I do like the content and the story to it. I mean, why would you make a movie on something you know the end to? And go see it. Well, I know the end of that movie. The ship sinks, people die. How you doing? We still go watch it and make it one of the top movies of all time. I know the story. That's the greatest thing about football, though, and sports in general. We saw something last night with Giannis in Milwaukee. You know what really moves the networks? And I'll say this to you, too. I think this is a great point. Who cares if ratings in hockey or baseball, if football, name the sport, aren't great? Do you know what the number one mover of content is on all of these television networks? It's sports. The NHL just sold their rights for ESPN to air their games for $790 million. Hockey gets no numbers unless you're in the Northeast or you're in Canada or particular markets like Nashville and Carolina and Tampa. Okay? Honestly, man, unless you're one of the original teams or you're in one of those hotbed cities, they get no numbers, man. You think you get hockey numbers in LA? Come on. Lakers struggle with numbers. I heard people talking about the ratings of the NBA last night. Who cares? They're going to ask for triple the numbers the NBA is when it comes to the new television contract because of gambling now being part of it. So when you hear people or you watch people on Twitter, by the way, I used to be one of those tools. Well, see the ratings, and then I started seeing what they were asking for and what they're getting. Sports is the biggest mover of content for all these networks. I've had, Sean McManus on. We had Sean McManus on this show. We were talking about it. That's the number one property for CBS. All the shows combined. CBS spends more money on sports than any other entity that they put on their network. The Masters, the NCAA basketball tournament, the Southeastern Conference football games, college football, NFL for sure. Right? I mean, those are their biggest operating budget expenses is sports. I was watching a story last night play out, and I was rooting for Giannis and his Milwaukee Bucks. You know, I'll throw this out to you. I think Aaron Rodgers can maybe take a lesson from what we saw last night with what Giannis did. You know, I said this yesterday to you. 2014, Giannis made a promise to the city of Milwaukee that he was going to deliver a championship. How great is it when you're a sports prophet and you can do that? In the city that invested in you, they gave him a max deal. He's going nowhere. And here's a guy that is all about that city. And you know what he did? He carved out a little moment for himself last night when he was named the Bill Russell Finals MVP. And there he was with both trophies. It's got to feel like an incredible accomplishment when you're a Super Bowl MVP and you're holding the Lombardi trophy like Brady has 7 times. And to know the journey that you've been on. And I'll give you some context here with this. You know, you can buy a home and own a home. You know, and it's your home. You love the house. It's something that you love. You know, you live in it. You have your family in it. But isn't there something special about a house that you build from the beginning? You pick out the floor tile. You pick out the cabinets. You pick out how the pool's going to be shaped. And by the end of the journey you go on building your home, it's your own private palace. It's something that you took immense pride in. I'm not saying that the house you live in now that you bought is not meaningful to you, but doesn't it mean something that's a little bit more here, that you spent time picking out the intangibles on what you wanted to see your house look like from start to finish? That's what Giannis did last night. Instead of being like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, and by the way, I'm not really diminishing it. I'm just saying that I think it's pretty cool that Giannis was able to be from the beginning of building this thing in Milwaukee. First time in 50 years they won a championship. And if you told me 3 years ago that Milwaukee would ever win an NBA championship, I'd be like this. No way. You're never going to see that team win a champ. Milwaukee? You think the NBA was rooting for Milwaukee? Maybe Adam Silver was, because he doesn't really like these super teams. Look at how revered he is now in that state of Wisconsin. There's not a more popular guy in that state than Giannis right now and what he delivered. And that includes Aaron Rodgers. You see, he was talking about building it from the beginning. That's all those conversations were last night after the postgame. He was just talking about building it and being together. And you think about it too, get this. There's no really superstar second guy there. Okay, there's nobody like Kobe and Shaq and, you know, Pippen and Jordan. There's nobody like that there. This guy is just a dude, man. He carried that franchise 50 points. And now, by the way, out of sight, out of mind. You know, I heard people saying that was the greatest finals Game 6 closeout game in NBA history. I'm like this. Hold on for a second. Let me hook you up here. How would you like to have to go to Philly in a Game 6 and you have to replace Jabbar because he's injured? You're 20 years old. You say to Pat Riley, I'll play the 5. You're a point guard. Magic Johnson in that series against the 76ers and Dr. J and Moses Malone, 2 of the greatest players to ever live. By the way, 83, I believe that team would end up winning a championship anyway. And he goes in there as a 20-year-old kid, and he delivers 42, 15, and 7, playing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll never see anything like that ever again happen in NBA history. Hell, you'll never see a rookie quarterback at 20 years old go into a Super Bowl and carry his team across the finish line like that. What Magic Johnson did that night in Philly is the greatest closeout game in NBA history. I don't care what you tell me about Jordan in Utah Game 6. He had 1 rebound and like 1 assist or something. Magic Johnson took over for Kareem. You could make the argument he's one of the top 3 players in the history of the NBA. Talk about prisoners of the moment. That's why Big Sills puts everybody back in their tracks here. Stay on the rail here, man. Think about what Magic did at 20. Hold on for a second here. Magic Johnson at 20. Year previous, you know what he does? At 19, he beats Bird in Utah. Gets Michigan State the national championship against Larry Bird. You know what he did the year before that at 18? He won a state championship in Michigan. 18, 19, and 20. Magic Johnson wins a high school state championship, a national championship, and then that dude delivers the goods where he is an NBA champion. I don't know about you, man. I really, don't ever tell me, hey, what Giannis did throwing 50 up last night, I think it was 50 and 15. He was spectacular. Come on, man. Magic had Moses and Dr. J on the floor. Billy Cunningham. Maurice Cheeks and them dudes. You crazy, man? That Sixer team was as good as any team you can have in the NBA's history as well. You put Dr. J and Moses Malone. Moses owned the league, man. I don't see anybody on that Suns team like that. Who, Chris Paul? That dude was out of gas. Not going to dismiss anything Giannis did because he delivered. And where I was going with it was, let's not be prisoners of the moment here, but I'll tell you something what he did. He galvanized an entire community. They love that dude, man. You think they love Aaron Rodgers like that? I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers comes off to me sometimes like, I'm not the best dudes when it comes to like having relationships. I brought this up yesterday. Even when he's dating chicks, man, this guy doesn't stick with a woman very long. And by the way, I'm commenting on this from 30,000 feet. I see the same crap you do. Danica Patrick and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't know, some movie actress he was dating. And I'm going like, I don't know. He just doesn't really seem to like relationships. And the longest relationship he's had is with this Packer team. I think Aaron Rodgers is just out over it. He wants to move on. Like he does with everything in his life when it comes to personal relationships. It's a character thing in him. A zebra's not going to change its stripes. It's who he is. And that's who Aaron Rodgers is. He doesn't like to stay committed very long to anything except himself. Okay, that's fine, man. But I don't know if you're going to win very many championships doing that. And you know what he relies on the most is that God-given ability of his. Watch this. When you talk about God-given ability, is Aaron Rodgers more gifted as a quarterback and all the skill set tools he has than Tom Brady? I don't think it's close. He ain't as accurate. Statistically, that's a fact. Look at those touchdowns to interception ratios that he has. Brady's never in that room. Aaron Rodgers lives in this one. 33 touchdowns and like 5 picks every year. It's the greatest differential I've ever seen. I mean, there was a couple years ago, people were going, he had a bad year. I think he had 26 touchdowns and 6 picks or something. And he went to the Pro Bowl, and I was like, how do you say that guy had a bad year? That guy was sensational. Anytime you get those kind of numbers, you're always going to win ball games because he is a magical guy at spinning that rock. But when it comes to like being that leader, I don't know. Maybe you should take a lesson from Giannis. Those guys loved him last night, those Bucks. And by the way, the Suns were up on that team. They just grinded it out, man. They saw they had a chance to win an NBA championship, but they were not going to let that moment go. They were not going to let go, as Mike Tomlin would say, of the rope. And they delivered, man. I'm watching that thing, and I'm going like this. That is really a sensational run to the championship. Now you got all the pundits out there going, yeah, man, we had a year, though, this year where guys were, like, hurt and, the pandemic. Hey, dude, you think Nick Saban gets a rat's ass about that when he won a national championship last year? You think Tom Brady cared about a pandemic? Excuses are for losers. They're completely for losers. Well, he really gave a great effort, and I hear people going, well, the Nets, they'll be there next year. Let me tell you something, man. Anybody that stands for losing and enjoys losing, I'll show you a waiter. Nobody likes to lose. Anybody who likes to lose, there's a picture of a waiter in your wallet. Losing. Well, he won and he lost with dignity. Shut up, man. Losing with dignity. Nobody remembers who lost. It's all about scoreboard. The only place that you get that crap is in politics and covering it. Well, we kind of won. Okay. The guy that goes on a golf course and goes, when somebody asks him a question, they go, hey, so what'd you shoot today? Oh, around an 80. No. Golf's not a bell curve. You either shot a 78 or you shot an 80 or you were over a C note. So when you play golf and you hear a tool go, hey, I'm around an 80. No, dog. Golf is a precise number. You either shoot 78 or you're an 80 guy or your handicap is here. That's why they have handicaps. I love the guy who always does that. Yeah, what do you, grade your life on a bell curve? I'm like, man, come on now. All right. Let's move on. I mentioned that the Cowboys are showing up to training camp today. By the way, that football team's a 10-17. I still don't see where they've gotten better. Okay, they get the kid from Penn State. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's an absolutely fabulous player. You add him to the mix. Fantastic. Great. Okay. But their issues were stopping the run. Their issues were getting after the quarterback. You see all them teams just gouge them up the middle. You know what the Dallas Cowboys defense was last year? Here, let me make a comparison to you. You get into a boxing ring and you're fighting a dude and he's got one hand tied behind his back. That means he can't defend himself. The Cowboys couldn't defend themselves when they had to play defense. They just got destroyed. They could not defend themselves. They couldn't. And did they get better on that defensive side of the football? I don't know. I don't know if they did. Everyone's like, well, they got Dan Quinn in there now. I'm like, so what, man? Just because I could get a guy in there and tell you where to line up, that doesn't mean you're going to execute that. It just does not mean you're going to execute it. So I'm like, okay. The Cowboys, to me, they're a 10-7 team. I don't see them getting any better. Now, are they going to be better offensively? Yeah, Dak's going to make them better. But remember something, before he got injured in that Giants game, they were like 1-4. I don't know. So you sign them. Great. They're going to score a lot of points and give up a boatload of points still. Until you can prove you can stop people, they're going to run the ball down your throat. That's how teams are going to beat the – you know how I'm going to beat the Cowboys? Anytime you see a football team throw the ball for 35 or 40 times against Dallas, it's poor play calling. This is how I'm going to beat Dallas. I'm going to get a running back. I'm going to give that guy 35 carries. I'm going to challenge the Cowboys to go, I don't think you can stop the run. I don't think you're tough enough. And we're going to go play 60 minutes of football, and we're going to see who the best man standing is. I'm not going to give you the ball on 1-2 and look like a ballet routine, 1-2-3 kick, 1-2-3 kick, because my quarterback sucks out loud. See, that'll be the issue with the Eagles this year. They'll think they have to throw the ball 35 times a game, and that'll keep the Cowboys in that game, and that's how the Eagles will lose that game. The way to beat the Cowboys is run the ball down their throat. They proved it all last year, and I don't see where they improved in that front seven. Now they got a new scheme. They went from 43 to 34 back to 43. Those are fronts. 4-man D-line, 3-man D-line. I don't think they got the personnel for both. Last year, if your best football player in your front seven was Aldon Smith, you're in trouble. So when Dallas goes to Oxnard, and they're there now, and they're practicing, I don't care what anybody and their predictions are. Show me that you're going to be able to stop the run. Cowboys haven't proven that now. So I don't care what the media says. What the media will do is in that stupid-ass Pro Football Focus, which is clickbait meat, what they'll do is, you know what they'll do? The Cowboys. Because you know why? The Cowboys are the most watched television show the NFL has every year. So what they'll do is they'll try to pop up the Cowboys, and everybody will go, hey, the Cowboys, man. I mean, the Cowboys, why would you even talk about the Cowboys? They've sucked for 26 years. Where do you see where the Cowboys have been relevant? Oh, that's right, the star and the owner. All right. So let's go here. Real quick, don't forget, John McMullen from Birds 365 will be with us here in a couple minutes. We'll get his thoughts on Philly and where they fit into the NFC East. You know, one thing I took away from last night's finals, too. So look what you have in two sports. Oh, and by the way, Emmanuel Acho from Speak for Yourself and Stephen A. Smith probably hate this the most. You know what's crazy here? Shohei Ohtani is the face of Major League Baseball, a Japanese-born kid. And now in basketball, Giannis is the face of the NBA. This couldn't be a better moment for both those leagues, where it shows you that anybody from around the world can come to this country and be a star in American sports. You talk about open borders. How about open opportunity? You can come to this country like Shohei Ohtani with the Angels and be a star. Giannis coming from Greece, 18 years old, is now the face of the NBA. Stephen A. Smith said, can't have a guy who doesn't speak English the face of your game. Well, my folks, when they came to this country, didn't speak English. And you got Giannis last night talking about that same thing, hope. Kid sitting in Greece going, man, he went to America and turned his dreams into reality. Brother, I don't know what's not more American than that. Open borders to your sport is a good thing, Stephen A. Emmanuel Acho. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Expand your mind a little bit. All right. Let's try to figure out where this Eagles team fits in the NFC East. All kinds of questions going into the 2021 training camp. We'll talk to our friend John McMullen. We'll do that next from Birds 365. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Dan Sileo, National Football Show. By the way, there's serious conversation going on that the Olympics could be canceled. Opening ceremonies are scheduled for Friday. There's going to be no fans, and it looks like there is a serious debate because of the new COVID cases that have spiked there in Japan, that the Tokyo Games could be in jeopardy now. So, listen, you know what's funny about that whole setup and how they set up their own rules? It's funny, man. They'll break all kinds of rules when it comes to craziness when you're talking about transgender or when it talks to the issues of protesting and all this other stuff. But they still can't get the science right when it comes to the COVID-19. Mask outside, inside. For the record, who came up with that 6-foot rule? Where's the science on that? I've never understood that. That was from a pandemic back in like 1901 when the Spanish flu. That's where the 6-foot thing came from. They used something from 100 some odd years ago to say that was proper protocol. And I'm like, how do you know that is indicative of what's with this new disease here? You're battling on the hill now with whose fault it is. Anytime you have politics involved in sports, and then God forbid you take the pandemic and you drop the pandemic into the conversation, you're never, ever going to feel comfortable in anything that you do when you're talking about trying to work through it, get through it, proper protocols, because people are going to have just different opinions of it. You're not going to be working together to try to resolve issues here. Nobody does that in Washington now. When you use a pandemic like this, like again, look at what the NFL is going to be facing when it comes to their fans versus some of the players who are still not looking to get vaccinated and stuff. So that's going to be a major issue for the National Football League. All right. I really love this guy, man. I just got a chance to become friends with him over the last couple months here. John McMullen joins us now from Birds 365 and does a great show with Jody Mack, the legendary Jody Mack. And brother, I love it, man. I mean, I watch you guys all the time, man. I mean, Philadelphia sports. Let me give this to you, John. And I kind of broached this with you before. So I when Jerome Brown first got drafted to the Eagles, I go, what's it like there? He goes, dude, these people love the living you-know-what out of this team. I go, look, they love the Flyers. They love the Phillies. They love all their sports teams. They're super passionate about it. He goes, but the Eagles, there's nothing like being a Philadelphia Eagle in a town. And when you're good, man, you're like a god. You go anywhere. You're not paying for anything. It's just something about being a Philadelphia Eagle in that town, isn't it, John, where you're like a walking god when you're in that town, especially when you're good.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. They're incredibly passionate fans. And, there's two sides to that sword. And we just went through the bad side with Carson Wentz. I mean, there's such pressure to perform. And you mentioned, but when you're a Jerome Brown, when you're a Reggie White back in the day, yeah, I mean, you're a legend. You're good. Brian Dawkins forever. Jody and I were talking about, I don't know if you saw, but there was a big thing about this Carson Wentz banner on Lincoln Financial Field. I'm like, who cares? Who cares? They'll have it down for the first preseason game. But the fans are going nuts about it. And I'm saying to myself, I don't even get it. And I'm here. but there's such passion for this team, and they want everything this team to be successful. And you're right. When you reach the heights and you're great, it's unbelievable. But there's the downside to that if you don't perform, man, you're going to take some hits, and you're going to take some significant hits that you're not going to take in other cities. And that's why I think people are at least some people look at Carson Wentz in Indianapolis and say maybe he can get things going back there because it's more laid back. It just is.
Let me give you a spin then on this. Two guys, and I'm going to bring up three guys. Brady, I think it's week 4. He's going back to New England, and he's going to be playing against the Patriots up there at Gillette. I think the Patriot fans are going to cheer the guy, and Boston's a pretty tough town too, okay, when it comes to the sports fans. I think they're going to cheer him, and then I think it's going to be because of the equity that he built up in that city by winning those 6 championships, that Brady's going to be looked at like when Orr went to Chicago and they moved into Chicago, or when Ray Bork went to Colorado with the Avalanche. He played all those legendary years in Boston, and that city still, no matter what those guys did every other place. And I would say even Andy Reid with Philly. I got to think, though, in a city like Philadelphia, if Andy Reid comes back and he brings that Kansas City team into Lincoln Financial, how do you think the fans would revere him?
Well, they revere him. I mean, Andy's been back.
Would they cheer him?
Yeah, I think they cheer Andy Reid at this point. But remember, Dan, you bring up Boston. You're right about Boston. Boston's the same way. It's the whole Northeast corridor. But how do you boo Tom Brady? I mean, he's got 6 for you. He's got 6. Even if you want to boo him, you can't boo him. I mean, he's such a legend. And he never got over the hump here. So at the end, there were a lot of fans who said, okay, it's time. We got to move on from this guy. And then as time went by, they say, okay, he really is a great coach. Good for him. He finally got a Super Bowl title. And by the way, that was easier for Eagles fans to take because they finally got their own. I think if they didn't get their own, maybe there would still be some disharmony with Andy Reid. But, man, you can't compare anybody to Tom Brady. I mean, the guy's at the White House cracking jokes. He's talking about playing to 46. We talk about GOATs all the time, Dan. Hey, you're a GOAT I always say you're a GOAT in the weight room, right? Miami and Maryland. Tom Brady is on a different level. He's on a Michael Jordan level. I mean, that's where he is. He's got 6. How angry could you be at him if you're in Boston?
Let me throw this at you, too. When you think of Philly fans and you're looking at 2 coaches, I just mentioned Andy Reid. Dick Vermeil did the same thing. Yeah, do you think that kind of tempered it a little bit when Dick took that team to a Super Bowl also, the same way that Andy Reid took the Eagles to a Super Bowl, didn't get over the hump. But when Vermeil won that Super Bowl in St. Louis with the Rams, was it kind of like, that's what maybe made it easier for Eagle fans to understand when Andy won that title in Kansas City that, hey, look, man, they didn't get it done here, but they had great years here. We respect these guys. You think Vermeil is looked at in the same light as what Andy is, or is Andy considered the greatest coach in Eagle history? And I would say to you, even though Peterson won the Super Bowl and maybe arguably some of the best years in Eagle history since the Super Bowl era, it seems to me that those 2 coaches are revered by Eagle fans, at least since the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, I mean, Andy's the best coach in Eagles history. Certainly, modern Eagles history. I don't think it's even close. He's not the most popular. Dick Vermeil's the most popular. And probably Buddy Ryan might be the second most popular, to be honest. I mean, it's a personality thing. When Dick left, Dick's still here, by the way, and he came back, and he's, he was always on I-95 in Philadelphia. He had this big billboard. He was a Blue Cross spokesman. He's always been beloved in this town, always, because he's the nicest guy in the world. And it never wavered. Even when he left, even when he was the head coach of other teams, he was still beloved in Philadelphia. Andy, because of his personality, because of the fact he couldn't get over the hump. People get spoiled, Dan. I always say The Green Bay Packers fans, they're the most spoiled of all. I mean, they've had 30 consecutive years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. 30 consecutive years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And they haven't gotten over the hump. They say, well, Favre's only got one. Rodgers has only got one. You know what other fan bases would have to have only one? I mean, they would love it. They're spoiled. Eagles fans got a little spoiled with Andy Reid because you had all the playoff appearances, all the NFC Championship game appearances, and they expected that. And then it became, if you don't give me the Super Bowl, you stink. So he had a little bit of that taint on him when he left. And then time heals all wounds. And people kind of got back and said, okay, Andy is really a good coach. And I think he's more respected. I don't know if he's loved because of the personality, but he's certainly respected.
Half the city rooting for Carson Wentz?
No.
Even though if he has success in Indianapolis this year, this is where passion sometimes blinds fans and fandom here, John, because if this guy does well, that thing turns into a first-round pick. So, I mean, that enhances the opportunity for assets for the Eagles moving forward to keep rebuilding the team. But what happened here actually then must have really just been a really bad taste in the fan base's mouth if you're not even rooting for the guy, and it would benefit you if he has some type of success in Indianapolis.
Yeah, they want him to play 75% of the snaps and stink up the joint, which is probably not going to happen. That's what they want, though. They feel for the most part that he checked out on the team. He gave up on the team. And you know, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair, but you know, I often point this. You can say whatever you want about Carson Wentz, and I criticize him for not taking the Jalen Hurts draft pick a little bit better. But man, that doesn't happen in this league, Dan. You're 27 years old. You're 10 months off the historic contract extension, and they're taking a quarterback at 53. It's never happened before in the Super Bowl era. You could talk about the Packers taking Rodgers. Favre was old. Jordan Love. Rodgers is old. You could at least, you know, look at the team and say, okay, I get what you're trying to do. Jimmy Garoppolo in New England when Brady was still there. I get what you're trying to do. When you're 27 and you've just been given the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL at the time, and they're taking another quarterback at 53? Let's put it this way. If the Eagles had that choice back, and by the way, Dan, this has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, the player. They would not make that pick because now they understand. The night of the draft, I called it a laboratory pick. I called it a vacuum pick. It looks fine inside a vacuum when you don't take human nature into effect. Now they look back with revisionist history and say, this really affected our quarterback. And when they made that pick, and here's the point, Dan, they wanted a cost-effective backup. There was no thought that Jalen Hurts would be the starter of the team. They made a big mistake. He should have handled it better, but they made a big mistake.
Absolutely. I called it a seatbelt draft where, you know, because the guy had been hurt so much, they weren't doing it to replace him. No. They were doing it to cover their ass. And like you said, John, they've got to do things when you're balancing your salary cap. You can't have high-priced guys at that position, at both positions, your backup and your starter. So no question. Let me get into this upcoming season here. Where do you think this Eagle team fits into the NFC East?
On paper, it's not good. I mean, it's tough to believe in this team because you have a quarterback who started 4 games and completed 52% of the passes, his passes, which is dismal. And in the modern NFL, you got to complete 65 in your average. So he's got to get better really quickly, and you have a rookie head coach. So you kind of look at it and say, even though it's a bad division, Dallas has Dak Prescott back. The Washington football team, I think they're going to win the division. I think they're the most well-rounded team. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick can at least play at a level where he can make that defense. They're going to have a top 5 defense. So all they need is to stay away from mistakes, game manager. You're going to have the occasional tragic game, but he'll bounce back and he'll play well enough. And then the Giants have Saquon Barkley back. So on paper, I think they look like the worst team in the division. However, we know how this league is built on parity, Dan. And I always say, as a fan of any particular team, if you want to, you can talk yourself into a lot of things. And what I mean by that is everybody has good players in the NFL. So if you want to be a glass is half empty guy.
We are going to try to reconnect here with John here in a second. I really love that where he was going here. Glass half full. Here we go. Okay, continue your point. Glass half full here, John. Go ahead.
Glass is half empty guy. Glass is half full. What I'm trying to say, you look at Dallas and say, okay, they have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and all these weapons and Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott's back. How are we going to stop that offense with the Eagles cornerbacks? So that's the way, if you want to be negative. If you want to be positive, you say to yourself, well, the Eagles might have a top 5 offensive line. If Lane Johnson is healthy, Brandon Brooks is healthy, Jason Kelsey's there, that's top 5 all day. They still have Fletcher Cox. They still have Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. They have a deep defensive line, certainly could be top 10 in the league. As a former defensive tackle, if you can block people in this league and you can rush the passer, you can win some games. So do you want to be positive or do you want to be negative? You can talk yourself into a lot of things.
Absolutely here. And, you mentioned Lane Johnson and, follow me along my thinking here and tell me because you're around the team and you know how this team has responded to criticism, to accolades, how they handled themselves after the Super Bowl. I'll tell you something that really impressed me about the group. Lane Johnson, and again, this guy, Michael Robinson from the NFL Network. And, I don't know how you take out of a coach who's around his players with helmets and shorts and OTAs and mini camps and stuff. And you go, well, there's guys whispering in the corner or doing things. I mean, you don't even know if this guy can handle like timeouts yet going into the half or at the end of games. You don't know his game management, how he does personnel settings. You have no idea until you get into exhibition games or until you get into at least the first quarter poll of the season. And yet Lane Johnson came out and the majority of the players, they put their name on it and they stamped it instead of these whispers. And I think that's been part of the issue with the Eagles over the last 2 years has been there's too much whispering going on in the corners, is that they rush to his defense. Hey, man, we really like what he's doing. I really like him. John, I've seen that stuff galvanize teams where it rallies the troops around one guy because they're pushing for that guy and they're pulling for that guy because that guy's being honest and genuine with them. You may like the rock, paper, scissors thing. You may not like that and all that other stuff that he's saying, but I took it from what the players were doing and they rallied around him. I took that as a positive. How did you take it?
Yeah, I think it's a positive, and especially when it's Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, players like that who are leaders of the team. I think it's great that they come to the defense of the head coach who is a rookie and is unproven and all that stuff. But I will say, and you know this even better than me, I mean, we're talking about 90-man locker rooms in the offseason, Dan. You could line up the next 90 people you meet. They're not all going to like you. I mean, bottom line is there are people questioning Nick Sirianni. I mean, but why wouldn't they be? I don't think that's that big of a deal. Any rookie head coach in this league, especially when you're coming off, relative success. You had a Super Bowl, you had 3 playoff appearances with the former head coach, who, by the way, everyone loved player-wise. So it doesn't surprise me. Some guys are saying, what the heck is this rock, paper, scissors? What is he doing? But while I say that, I also don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think it's really important to get the veteran leaders on your side. And that part's a positive because Lane Johnson's on his side, Jason Kelsey. They're giving him a chance. Everybody deserves a chance. when the Eagles hired Doug Peterson, everyone said, this is going to be a disaster. And by the way, the Eagles could say whatever they want, Dan. They wanted to hire Adam Gase.
Yeah.
They wanted to hire Adam Gase. And when they didn't get Adam Gase, they wanted Ben McAdoo. And they ended up with Doug Peterson. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
I'll make a point to you here. After Jimmy's first year in Dallas, he's 1-15. He replaces Tom Landry, Skip Bayless, Randy Galloway. Everybody was just banging on this guy. No way, college guy, never get it, never understand. This is what and I told you that I've been going back and forth with Nick, and we're supposed to get him on our show. Bob Lang said that over the next couple days. I said this, and I text this to him. I said, Jimmy Johnson, you had Dave Wannstedt go to him once and say this to him. Hey, Jimmy, man, maybe we should go to a 3-4 defense and not the 4-3. We're getting killed. We're 1-12 at the time. And Jimmy looked at him and went, no. We're going to stick to what we're doing. I've got a plan what we're doing. We're going to get there. And it resulted in 3 Super Bowls. I mean, so if Sirianni sticks to what he's doing, sticks to his guns, and he at least sticks to his philosophy, and he's open-minded. I mean, I think there's a balance there. I think he's got a chance to succeed. And like you said, I mean, every coach that's a rookie coach, even Parcells, I mean, John gets questioned. That's why I think your point is really good point, because what rookie coach didn't – I mean, were they not howling at Dick Vermeil his first season?
Oh, yeah.
When he got to Philadelphia and saying, here's another college guy, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, go back to UCLA, dude. It ain't like that, here in Philly. And then he's, like you said, one of the most revered guys. So I see some positives. Are you seeing positives with Nick Sirianni? Do you feel good about him?
I do. I got to see Nick a little bit behind the scenes. And look, he didn't come off great in his introductory press conference, but that doesn't mean anything. No. I mean, it's understandable. He's a little bit nervous. And I'll tell you what, he's really passionate about football. He really is. It's not an act. His energy, his enthusiasm. And I think that's going to play well. But Dan, things like that play really well when you win. They play really poorly. If he starts losing, look, the epitaph on his tombstone in Philadelphia, if he fails, is going to be rock, paper, scissors. It just is. People are going to rip him. They're never going to let him forget that. However, he's got a chance to turn it around. And the way you turn it around in this league is win, and everybody forgets all the ancillary nonsense. But if you're unsuccessful, they're going to say, rah, rah, high school guy, too much. You can't do this with players. It's not true. Players, and Barrett Brooks always tells me this, the old Eagles offensive lineman, won a Super Bowl with the Steelers. If you can make a player better, and you can probably speak to this, they'll respect you as a coach, position coach, head coach. They just want to get better. They just want to be put in good conditions to succeed.
Absolutely. A couple last questions here for you, John. John, give me the number one thing, or maybe there was a few things that caused the demise of the Doug Peterson era. What in your opinion, do you think was the catalyst on how this thing went so sideways? So, I mean, you're lifting the Lombardi trophy, confetti's falling, and then within a matter of 3 years, it's over. How is that possible that it went south so quick? What happened that you thought was like where you went, that's it right there? Maybe there was a collective thing that happened.
I think Doug finally stood up for himself. One of the things that I will never understand with the Eagles is they didn't allow Doug Peterson to have a lot of autonomy with his coaching staff. And he didn't want to fire Mike Rowe, for instance, as the offensive coordinator. He didn't even want to fire Carson Walsh as the wide receiver coach. He was forced to. When Jeffrey Lurie brought him in, and he was going to keep him as the head coach, but he wanted a plan. What are we going to do moving forward? And Doug wanted to elevate Matt Burke to be the defensive coordinator and Press Taylor to be the offensive coordinator. And Jeffrey said, no, you can't do that. You got to go in a different direction. And this had been going on for about 3 years, really since Frank left. Wasn't allowed autonomy in his coaching staff and said, you know what, this is bull, you know what? I want these guys. This is my plan. And he finally put his foot down, and Jeffrey Lurie said, we're going to go in a different direction. And it's interesting because, and this is very counterintuitive, Dan. I don't understand it. Nick Sirianni was given more autonomy over his coaching staff than Doug Peterson, the guy who won the Super Bowl for Jeffrey Lurie. And the reason I was given behind the scenes is because Nick has developed more relationships around the league, because he's been in Pittsburgh, he's been in San Diego, he's been in Indianapolis. Whereas Doug was a player, then he retired, he became a high school coach, and Andy brought him back. And he never left Andy's side. But the counterintuitive part to me is, well, why would you leave Andy Reid's side? To get more experience. Look, if you get fired or you move from place to place in coaching, that means you're not getting it done. Andy Reid, you're getting it done, man. Who else do you want? That's very, very counterintuitive to me. Bottom line, though, is Doug finally put his foot down and wanted his coaches. And Jeffrey, he wanted to direct. And by the way, as the owner, I always say, look, it's your team, especially when it comes to head coach and quarterback. But come on, Jeffrey Lurie, if you're listening, what the hell do you know about the wide receiver coach? Let the guy have his wide receiver coach. And by the way, if he fails with his own coaches, then you fire him. And then I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. Finally here. Yesterday was Ben Simmons' birthday. Did you wish him happy birthday yesterday?
Of course. I say happy birthday to Ben Simmons. But man, you talk about, but we started this conversation about the passion of Philly. You saw the negative end, man. But I'll tell you, Dan, they were so supportive of Ben Simmons for years and years and years until the very end. And he gave up that easy dunk at the end of the game. And they said, that's it. And they completely flipped and turned on him. This guy's ridiculous. We got to move on. That's how quickly they can turn on.
Yeah, but I would say this to you. If you're like, I mean, look at Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz moved his entire family to the Philadelphia area. They wanted to be part of that community. You know, talking to all the players like Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons and all those guys and Andre Waters back in the day. I knew all those Gang Green guys. They all moved to the area, man. They wanted to be part of that community. I never thought that guy ever really, truly ever wanted to be part of that community. You know, when you watch a guy like Giannis and you watch somebody who improves his game like Lamar Jackson, you and I talked about this before when I was filling in for you guys, and you see people working on their game, a community like Philadelphia or Boston or Pittsburgh, places like that love their team, but are going to be passionate about their team, whether it's good or bad. I mean, they're going to give you a couple speed bumps. But when you're not going to produce and you're not thinking about winning or improving your game, and you're considered one of the leaders of that team, man, I think he got what he deserved in the end, man. I mean, let's not forget something. He is making immense money. And when fans see that, it's a blue-collar city, man. You're not going to look at a guy and go, well, this guy's on Instagram chasing down skirts, and he's jumping in his Ferrari, and he's not working on his game, and then he lives in Southern California.
Well, there you have it. Well, here it is, Dan. This team is the number one seed. They went through all that losing to get players like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They got the Atlanta Hawks. They think they're going to cakewalk to the Eastern Conference Finals. They lose because Ben Simmons won't take a shot at the end of the game, won't even attempt a shot. And then guess what? They're all disappointed. They got to watch the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis and Drew Holiday, who used to be a Sixer, win an NBA championship. And they're all disappointed and devastated. And Ben Simmons is buying $18 million mansions in Los Angeles and dating BBC spokesmodels at Wimbledon. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit. And that's not Philadelphia. By the way, I don't blame Ben. If I could, I'd be dating the BBC spokesmodel as well. That my wife is out of the house, so I can say that.
Mine too. That's why I say the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a troller too. Hey, John, I appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you so much, man. It's always great to get a chat with you on this stuff here, man. I love your takes too, man. I love the work that you and Jody do on Birds 365. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Anytime you need me, let me know.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it, man.
You got it, man. That is John McMullen. Don't forget, you can catch him right here on the JAKIB Media channel. Yeah. Ben Simmons is chasing skirts. And when he said BBC, I was like, what's that? Oh, yeah, that's the British Broadcasting Company. Is that right? See, I don't really care about too many things overseas. Unless it's wine or booze or something, Coronas. That's not something that really. Big Stills is more of an American deal here. Don't really care. Yeah, no. No, I do like Italian women. Okay, should I leave it there? I think we will. Interesting, too, what he was saying about, how the passionate Philadelphia fans on Carson Wentz. I hate that scumbag. Look at what this guy did to this franchise. Look at what they did. They gave him the money. They turned on him like a dog, didn't they? But see, you got to always say this. Look at it the other side on what's the silver lining of this thing here. If that dude, and by the way, there's no way anybody in Philadelphia wants to see that guy go to an AFC championship game next year. And I think they are. Everybody in Philly is you're rooting against him. You're not thinking clear on 2 points. If he does good, you get a first rounder. And he's in Indy where he doesn't have to do near as much as he had to in Philly. He's got a running game. He's got a top 10 defense. He's got a top 10 offense. You've got Jonathan Taylor. You've got a relationship with your coach. I'll say this to you. If Carson Wentz, if this guy urinates all over himself in Indianapolis, man, this guy was like a 1.5-year wonder. Have we ever seen that before? Rick Meyer, a couple guys who, RG3, I know injuries played a factor in that. I get it. But I mean, dude, you've got to get into a position here where you're now being given carte blanche here in a yellow brick road for you to have success here. And you better win here, man, in Indianapolis. And the Eagle fans, look at what they've had to look at. Andy Reid winning a championship 2 years ago in Kansas City. A couple decades ago, you watched Vermeil win one in St. Louis. Now you're sitting here and you're like, Jesus, man. We had all of our eggs in this Carson Wentz basket, and look how this whole thing ended up playing itself out here for us. And he's right, man. I mean, this guy here was given carte blanche in that team. The other thing we hit on too was Doug Peterson. I cannot believe how fast that thing unraveled. You could make the conversation that for Doug's time as a head coach, he was more successful in that time frame than what Andy Reid was. Couple division titles, a Super Bowl, an NFC championship. I don't know. That's like when people tell me, well, Doc Rivers sucked when he was with the Clippers. Really? Doc Rivers, it was the greatest winning time in the history of the franchise in Los Angeles with the Clippers when Doc was the head coach there. Were there postseason disasters? Yes. Has he been living off the Boston series where he won those championships, or a championship with Kevin Garnett? Yes. All of that is true. But don't tell me Doc failed in Los Angeles. He didn't. It's the greatest winning time in the history of that franchise when Doc Rivers was there. People don't like the way he threw Simmons under the bus immediately. I'm not suggesting there hasn't been missteps with that. But the Doug Peterson unraveling, man. I mean, confetti's falling, right? You beat the New England Patriots. The Philly special. All of that. And it just imploded. Okay, this new nil law, I want to show you how I think this thing could be definitely used to the advantage of college coaches. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in,
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Your boy Dan Sileo. That was great catching up with John McMullen. We really appreciate it. We make our own sweet music here, man. All good. Big Sills here. How you doing? Right? We have, over the next couple days, some really huge guests coming up. Don't want to jinx it in any way here, but we'll keep you updated. All you have to do is go over to my Twitter page at Dan Sileo Show, and you can see some of the people that we're going to have coming up here in a second. So it's going to be pretty cool here as we get into training camp next week. We get ready for the Hall of Fame game. Hey, by the way, too, man, did you hear what they're doing at the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Because they've combined two classes, the 2020 and the 2021 classes, and or the 19 and the 2020 classes, they've combined for induction. You're gonna maybe only get 6 minutes. So you're gonna get the Oscar hook. You know how you hear the music when the Oscars are best supporting actress, and all of a sudden you hear the music and you've been rambling on about me, and hey, I want to thank me. Hey, every time I watch the Oscars, I'm like, I don't know, man. It sounds like something Big Sills would be good at. I'd like to thank me. I'd really like to thank me and my, ego for doing some of the things that we've done over the years. When I was a young kid, and I can't do it anymore. Yeah. Every time I watch the Oscars, man, I want to thank my family for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank me for persevering. And you're like, oh, okay, Like no one likes this. So 6 minutes that you're going to get when you're at the Hall of Fame this year. So you better get it all in, or they're going to give you the Oscar hook there, and you're on stage there too. So that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, because some of these guys know how to talk. And by the way, I like the storylines. All right, let's move on here. I mentioned to you, I thought Nick Saban was a fan of Bryce Young, his boy, getting all this money. I don't think, after reading some of the comments and watching his expressions, I don't know, man, if he's overjoyed with that. Okay, I really don't. Oh, you know what? I'll give you one of the guests right now. We're going to have Dabo Sweeney on Monday at 4:30 Eastern time. I'm going to ask Dabo what he makes of this. Because, he's going to have guys on his team. He's right there in that Alabama room as one of the top 3 programs in the country. Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama. Those are your 3 dogs, man. Then it's everyone else, right? Kind of like an outlier team. But those 3 guys have run college football for the last 20 years. It's been those 3. So I'm sure Dabo, and I'm going to tell you this, that Clemson faithful, let me give you a little bit about, and again, I'm going to get into this nil rule and how it's going to affect college football. So when you go to Clemson, they got this I pay $30 a year club. Could be $30. It could be $30 grand. It could be $300 grand. They've got some of the biggest money people in the entire country that supports that football program. You talk about alumni, I'm telling you, man, Clemson, they got the best of everything. It is a gigantic program. Alabama too, man. Nick Saban's got 2 houses. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Deliverance. He's got like a cottage on that river, that actual river that they filmed the movie on. And Saban goes there before the start of the season, and he kind of that's his hangout. They paid for it. Like all of Saban's homes have been paid for by the Alabama alumni and athletic supporters. All that's his cars, his bills, hell, his food, everything. Saban, it's always funny hearing these stupid. You notice that simmered down. NFL people aren't even barking that any longer. Why would Nick Saban leave Alabama? He's paid like a pro coach. Guy makes $11 million a year, flies around in a private jet. He's got homes that are paid for. This guy's got every single thing in his grasp. Why would he do anything to jeopardize that? Why would he? He wouldn't. I wouldn't. Like I say this about Calipari. Why would John Calipari ever leave Kentucky? He's a rock star at Kentucky. Flies around in a jet, does all this stuff. Make no mistake about it, man. This is an incredible time to be a college coach right now. It's absolutely incredible. So, here's where we go here. The new nil laws. Man, if I'm Alabama or I'm doing something right now, let me tell you what I'm doing. I just found out that my starting quarterback is going to be making $1 million a year, and he hasn't played 1 down yet. Let me tell you something. I'd be using this as a recruiting tool. I would knock on every single kid's door, and I don't care if you're committed to go anywhere. Do you know what I would be doing? I'd be sitting here doing this. Hey, man, you want to come and make $1 million? Come to Alabama. Hey, you want to drive a car? Come to Alabama. Hey, you want to live in a really nice house? You live in Alabama. I mean, quite frankly, right now, make no mistake about it, dude. This is a great recruiting tool if you are someone right now that has all the, without a doubt, opportunity to make money for these kids. This is a great tool for them to do it. All right, I've got to take a quick timeout here for a second. We'll do that. When we come back out of the timeout, I want to hit on Tom Brady. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on three. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Your boy Dan Sileo here. We appreciate you coming aboard with us, as you always do each and every single day. Thank you so much. 4 to 6 Eastern time. Like I said, man, Dabo Swinney, okay? Monday, 4:30 Eastern time. All right. You know, real quick on Nick Saban, I want to throw this out. We were just talking about him, how Alabama should be using that nil rule to their advantage. Watch this, man. You pick up the phone. You call the kid and you go, hey, Nick Saban, love to have you come. First, it's Alabama. Of course, you're going to pick the phone up. Okay, you're going to go like this. Hey, man. Yeah, okay. Hey, coach, thank you for really thinking of me. How'd you like to make $1 million? Okay, help me out. Well, my guy just is making $1 million. Instead of fighting it, embrace it. Instead of looking at it where you're going like this, man, this is going to be bad. No. It's going to separate you from the rest of the have-nots. If I'm Dabo Swinney or I'm Ryan Day of Ohio State, I'm going to use this thing to my complete advantage. I mean, okay, the University of Ohio can't do it. Well, that's not my fault. Yeah, but it's not going to be fair. Fair? Hey, free enterprise is usually not fair. You know, capitalism isn't fair. Socialism is fair. Fair to the government. You know, college sports is not a socialistic mentality. Oh, wait, I'll take that back. They think it is. But in reality, it's not. You think Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Southern Cal, who operate under a different, completely different operating budget operates under the same umbrella that San Diego State or San Jose State or Boston College or any of those other schools, Temple. Come on, man. Well, everything should be fair. There's nothing fair in this country because capitalism isn't fair. It goes to the hardest worker, the people that put the most into it. Jesus criminy. This is not a communist society we're talking with college sports. Nothing is fair, man. Stop pretending. See, college sports has always pretended that. They've always pretended, well, this is amateur sports. No, it ain't. When you're paying Nick Saban $11 million a year, how in your right mind do you even think that that's fair? There's like no way you could possibly think that's fair. Here, I'll give you an instance. Saban made $11 million a year last year, okay? A guy named Rocky Long, who was the head coach of San Diego State, made $800,000. There's not a coach on the Alabama coaching staff that makes under $1 million. The coordinators are making $2.9, $2.5. Nothing's fair in college sports. They just give you the impression it is. Yeah, fake news. Fake news, dude. Use that thing. By the way, you know what? I found this out today about Nick Saban. Since we're on a Nick Saban tangent here, a couple of my boys who were in that Miami Dolphins organization said this to me this morning. After they realized that they had made a gigantic mistake with Dante Culpepper and they brought his ass in and they knew he was not healthy and he saw what Breeze was doing in New Orleans, Saban knew immediately to get the hell out of Miami. And do you remember how that whole thing played out, how he got that Bama job? Remember, they were asking him, and I was in Miami at the time. We were all asking him, hey, coach, there's a rumor you're going to take over for Mike Shula. Mike Shula had run the Alabama program into the toilet. They were losing games. They were awful. He couldn't recruit. Former quarterback for Ray Perkins, I think, at Alabama. I think Ray, because he was my teammate at Tampa Bay. And he was running that program into the toilet. And out of nowhere, and we all had heard that Bama and Mal Moore, the former athletic director, had put this gigantic deal in front of him. Hey, come back. Remember, he had won a national championship at LSU. And everyone was like, hey, come back to the SEC. Da-da-da-da. Saban's like, I got to get out. The number one person they had to sell was Saban's wife. And Saban's wife said, let's get out of here because we're not going to go anywhere with Dante Culpepper. When they realized that Culpepper was a tragic mistake. By the way, if you had to do that all over again, there's not one team that thought that Drew Brees was ever going to recover from that injury that he sustained in San Diego when he was with the Chargers. He got hurt in that Kansas City game at the end of the year. And there's not one person on the planet who thought he was going to be able to do the things and put up the numbers that he ended up putting up in his fabulous career. Nobody thought that. And that was the writing on the wall. He said, I'm out of here, man. And that's how Saban got the Bama job. He realized watching Breeze throw the ball the way he was throwing it in New Orleans, he goes, wow, did we absolutely make a massive mistake when it came to the quarterback selection? Because I'll tell you this, can you imagine this? Just dream for a second. Can you imagine if Saban had chosen right and it was Breeze in Miami? You would have had Breeze and Brady going back and forth in the AFC East for all those decades and going back and forth. Those two coaches. Bill Belichick's resume may be completely different, and Tom Brady's may be completely different if those two guys were able to battle. Remember, they played twice a year with each other. Okay? They played twice a year. And so just think about how that whole thing would have ended up playing out. It would have changed history of the league. It would have changed history of resumes. if that ended up playing out. So it's how one decision, think about that for a second. Just one decision changed the course of history. Both guys, you would make the argument where look at what Nick Saban has done. Would you say Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach of all time? I would. I know Coach Bryant and Woody Hayes and those guys, and I get it, man. If you want to go back when guys folded up their helmets and put it in their back pocket with Rockney and them guys, sure, all right. I don't know. Never saw the guys coach. I don't know who they are. It was like rugby back then. Okay, but these guys in my lifetime, these guys are the best coaches I've ever seen because they're the best recruiters I've ever seen. Okay, just phenomenal. I think Myers, great. I don't think he's Saban great. And for the record, I don't really think Nick does anything over the top when it comes to his schemes. I mean, there's nothing special about him. But you know what's special about him as a coach? He hires great assistant coaches. He recruits the best players. And who cares what the system is? He changes coordinators like he changes shoes. I mean, you can go from Sarkisian. You can go to Ken O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, you could go to anybody, and people go into that coaching staff, and they have the same success because they're not missing a beat. This guy knows. That was the key to Jimmy Johnson's success as well. Man, Jimmy knew how to hire and just draft guys. He knew how to recruit, and he knew how to hire assistant coaches. Man, you know what's crazy, too? Think about it. Nick Saban's assistants have a lot in common with Jimmy Johnson's assistants. Name me one Nick Saban assistant coach that's gone on to be a superstar coach. Let's think about that for a minute. Bo Pelini, kind of. Bill O'Brien. Okay, he's decent. Give me another coach that you went like this. The guy's really, he is just a special coach. Give me one guy. One guy that Nick Saban has had that he's put in the NFL or college coaching. The guy in Georgia. Okay. Let me give me, okay, that's decent. Give me another guy. Here, and I'll give you this with Jimmy. Dave wants that? I don't know. Butch Davis, pretty good college coach. Norv Turner? I don't know. Whatever you think of Norv. Mike Zimmer? Mike Zimmer's decent. The point is that these guys all fit into what he was doing. So when you go and you coach at those places, we'll find out what Steve Sarkisian is at Texas. Steve's a good coach, though. He wasn't really matured under Saban, but Saban gave him an opportunity. All right, let me move on here. Enough Saban talk here. Let's go into Tom Brady. I'll ask you this question. I asked John McMullen this question in the last hour here, and I'll ask you guys this question. So Tom Brady says it's going to be a great week of football in week 4 of the NFL when he goes back to Gillette. And he goes back and sees those fans. Boston has a lot in common with places like Pittsburgh, Philly, Chicago, Green Bay. What's another great fan base? New Orleans has a good fan base. The Giants have a pretty decent fan base. Hey, the Patriots have a great fan base. Okay. You have a guy deliver what Tom Brady delivered to your franchise. Do you cheer him or do you jeer him? What do you do? How would I? Here, I'm not going to speak for every fan. I'll speak for me as a fan. If Tom Brady rolled into my building and he had won 6 Super Bowls, and I know how the whole thing ended, and I saw that dude win a Super Bowl in Tampa, I'd be like this. I'm not mad at that dude. The Patriots just didn't keep filling up the cabinet to keep it going. They ran out of gas as an organization. That's not on Tom. You think Tom should have died on the vine in Boston? You think he should have just died on the vine and been loyal to the soil? No way, man. Absolutely no way. So I'm not pissed at Tom Brady. Okay? I'm not pissed at Tom Brady. I'm gonna cheer him. I'm not gonna go crazy now. I'm still gonna want my page. When he rolls into Gillette, I'm not hoping that his Buccaneers beat the Patriots if I'm a Pats fan. I'm not doing that. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't have any of that animosity, but hey, you know what? I have respect for the guy, but let's not get crazy here. I'm not going to sit here and be a snowflake and go, yeah, he won all this, so we give him a hall pass, and he'll always be hey, man, that's for retirement talk. And when he comes back and you put his jersey up in the rafters there, and you can do all that crap after that, but right now, man, he's the enemy. That's how I look at it. That son of a bitch is the enemy. I'm not going to sit here and go like this. Screw that, man. That ain't working for me. But I'm going to respect him. Now, if Carson Wentz came back, let me ask you this. If Wentz comes back to Philly, and he has success in Indy, I'll tell you who they're going to end up revering more. I'll tell you this, too. And I'm going to make a prediction to you. Are you ready? I'm going to make a prediction to you. One day, Frank Reich will be the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know when, but he will be the head coach in Philly. He's got a get out of jail card in his back pocket with that franchise. If you go back to JAKIB Media's website or their channel and you pull up that Frank Reich interview that we did here, Frank tells you right on that interview. He says this: I have a great relationship with Howie. I love the owner. We talk all the time. When I heard all that, Frank's will be a coach of that team one day. There's just too much love in the building. Too much love in the building for Frank Reich. By the way, you think there's any coincidence they hired Frank's OC? You think that's just a coincidence? Oh, wait a minute. You sent the quarterback that you coached in Philly to Frank. Frank sends back his OC as your new head football coach. You think that really is just something that just magically happened? And that there wasn't dialogue since the end of the season? How do you not put that together? I mean, common idiots could put that together. Okay, so wait a minute. Wentz is there, and I send back the OC as your new head coach. Lincoln Riley. That's the dumbest thing. But then again, they were doing fake news in Philly for a while. Really? You think Lincoln Riley was going to leave? You think he was going to leave Oklahoma making $7 million a year? And he's got a tenure bonus in there, the same way that Bob Stoops did. If Stoops stayed there 10 years, there was a bonus of $6 million, and they upped his salary. I think he's making $7.5 now, Lincoln Riley. You think the Eagles are going to pay $7.5 million for an unproven coach after they just fired Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl? Dude, you're crazy, man. That ain't working. They were never going to spend that kind of money. And another factor, the money that they owe on the Wentz deal still. So then you're going to turn around and you still owe money on the scenario where you're talking about having somebody sit here and having somebody, understand when you're talking about contracts. It's just not going to make sense. It just does not make sense. Not going to happen. Too much money's being floated around. You owe Doug Peterson money, and you owe Carson Wentz money. Sirianni goes back as the head coach. Okay. Right. Sure. Okay. That just magically happened. Okay. So that's not going to work. Not going to revere Carson Wentz or cheering Carson Wentz when he comes back. I can't wait for that day when that day comes out. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to that week 4 when Brady goes up to Gillette. I really am. I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's move on here. Stephen Jones. And the Cowboys, as I said to you, are in training camp today. And he came out publicly. By the way, we had Stephen Jones on our show, also here, the National Football Show, a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking to him, the vice president of the Dallas Cowboys, said some great things about Dak Prescott. By the way, one of the most telling things in that interview was it was never about the money. You know, it was never about the money. It was always about the length of the contract. And he came out today. And if you go back and listen to that, you pretty much get what he's saying as of today or yesterday when he's talking about Dak Prescott's contract. He says they made a mistake by not signing him before the pandemic. Okay. But you know what they ended up doing in the end? They did the right thing. Dak being the face of the franchise. Dak being the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years or 5 years. I mean, there's no question about it. The Cowboys said, yeah, okay, so we're going to have to eat an extra million or $2 here. I think it's more like $5 million probably. Here, pre-pandemic, let's put that into perspective. Maybe it's more like 12. What do you think you would have signed Dak Prescott for pre-pandemic? Stephen Jones said they made a mistake. They signed him for 42 annually. What do you think it would have been prior to the pandemic? The cap was 31 already. So where are we? 40? 39? They had just signed Desean Watson to a $38 million annual deal in Houston. So we're probably between 38 and where he initially signed at the end anyway, 42. So he's probably in there. So what are we talking about? A couple $1 million here? We're not talking about 12 or 5 or $8 million here. We're talking somewhere in there because remember, the cap, and it did go down, so that would have brought down that number for the quarterback spot. But that just would have been an economic thing. It wouldn't have been really market value. So they probably lost out because the cap went down because of the pandemic. But the value of Dak didn't go down, even after the injury. So it came out with, make no mistake about it, you know, when he's saying that they probably should have signed him before, maybe what Steven is meaning is that they should have signed the guy because, you know why? It would have alleviated any kind of speculation that he wasn't going to be the starting guy for the Dallas Cowboys moving forward. Because remember how we started to do all that debating? We started to do all that debating by doing this. Is he the guy? Is he going to be the guy? Is he not going to be the guy? You know, we were doing all that back and forth here. So it maybe just created more chaos for the Cowboys. And remember something, when you have a situation where you have the quarterback situation not taken care of and you're not isolating on that situation, the rest of your roster suffers. Building the defensive front seven, retooling the offensive line. Anytime you've got stability at that position there, it's going to create a little bit more leeway for you to be able to isolate and evaluate the other positions that you have on the team. So to me, that's more kind of where it is, because if we're talking economics here, I mean, you really got to look at it where we're talking about just a couple $1 million here. We're not talking about $10, $15 million. There wasn't going to be that gap. You were still going to pay market value for the kid. So they go into training camp now. Everything's set up. They're in Oxnard now. And I said this at the beginning of the program. I think the Dallas Cowboys are a 10-7 football team. I really don't look at them as being a football team where they've really upgraded all that much. I mean, you give a guy, just because you gave him more money, that doesn't mean the football team is going to be a better football team. They were still struggling on defense. And the thing about football is you got to be balanced all over the place, your special teams, your defense. And the Cowboys are not. They're top heavy in their cap. 3 guys. I bring this up to you all the time. Murray Cooper makes $20 million a year. Ezekiel Elliott makes $18 million. Now the quarterback makes $42 million annually. You got $60 million just in 2 players between Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott on a $181 million salary cap. Think about that. You got 53 other guys that you've got a tool when it comes to paying salaries to, And there's no way you're going to get premium guys when you're paying that kind of money on 2 guys. And then you add an overrated Amari Cooper into that conversation. You got $80 million. You got $100 million of that salary cap to fill out the rest of your roster. That ain't going to work, man. I said this before to many people that the secret sauce to the Patriots, they never paid a soul to anybody, including Tom Brady. He was never the highest paid guy in that building. He was never that guy. Never that guy. Anytime a guy's salary came up like Richard Seymour or Chandler Jones or somebody like that, they moved him. Even Darrelle Revis. Even the offensive line, they would move people all the time. Randy Moss too, man. They're not going to pay big money for that. That's just not who they are. So when you got issues like that and the Cowboys are too top heavy, I would have done this. I would have moved off Ezekiel Elliott. And I probably wouldn't have moved off of Amari Cooper because I gave a lot up for him trading with the Raiders. But I probably wouldn't have, because if I'm investing that kind of money in my quarterback, I'm not doing what they did in Houston with DeAndre Hopkins, getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins, and you give Desean Watson like a $39 million annual deal. I'm not doing that. You cripple DeAndre Hopkins by taking one of the top 3rd down guys in the league away from you. Why would you do that? You wouldn't. Makes no common sense when you're doing things like that. All right, let's move on here. Speaking of Desean Watson, this is crazy, this story. This really is crazy in what they're doing. I would say this to you. Okay, so we're now like 7 days out of training. Where are we now? No, we're 6 days out now from training camp for the Texans showing up. What the hell's happening here? Is the guy going to be on the commissioner's list? Is he going to play? What's going on here? What's the scenario that we have? What's he going to do? I mean, bottom line here, you have no idea what the quarterback situation is in Houston. Not that the Houston Texans were going to be world beaters or anything like that, but you just don't know what's going on with the quarterback position. You got a brand new head football coach. Are you going with Tyrod Taylor or you're not going with Tyrod Taylor? Man, I would hate to be in that organization right now. I so would hate to be in that organization. Player, coach, talent evaluator, scout, public relations. The public relations department must be an absolute disaster hole right now. Think of that for a minute, man. What do you tell the media? What's Desean doing? I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. I have no idea what we're doing here. Man, it just makes absolute no sense in what we're doing here when it comes to the quarterback position. Nobody knows, not even the Texans. Maybe they do, but man, it'd be nice if you let the players know. So that's such an unresolved storyline. Maybe we get something this week by the end of the week, because something's got to be resolved here with this. All right. I want to throw this at you here. I was talking to John McMullen in the last hour, and he likes Washington to win the NFC East. As I do. I think they are the best team in the NFC East. I think that football team's got a chance to really do some good things, all depending on what the quarterback does. You know what he said today as he was getting ready to go to training camp? He made a comment today that I thought was really cool. And you know what? This guy may be one day a guy that you may want to ever consider him to be a head football coach, because I really love him. 9 teams, every place he's ever been. Everybody falls in love with the guy. They think the world of him. Everybody plays hard for him. He's been a journeyman. He's put up a fabulous 7. Get this, that guy's played 17 seasons. 17 seasons, 9 different teams. And he's put up more numbers than what Terry Bradshaw has career-wise when it comes to passing yards. Hell, I think he's even got more touchdown passes than Terry. I think it's pretty impressive for what he's done on being a journeyman backup guy, substitute teacher, whatever you want to call him. He's been really a great player. And I say that, not a great player in talent, but he's been how about this? Maybe a great teammate. He was talking about Tua Tagovailoa and his relationship in Miami and what they were going through last year. And he said he kind of sacrificed something that he thought about it at the end of the year if he had done the right thing. What he did was he put his ego away. And when they went to him and said, we're going to start Tua, they were winning with him. They were putting everything together. The Dolphins were ascending. They were going like this. Hey, look, Tua's 6-3 as a starter. I'm not saying he lost games, but they were getting better and better and better as an offense. I thought when Tua got in, I think, what was he throwing for, like 140 yards as an average for those games that he was in? I thought it went like this. Remember, he got benched like 3 times or 4 times in that whole process. And I thought they had a bumpy ride. But when he was throwing for 340 yards, 330 yards, he was starting to get that offense really in a great place. And I was thinking, why would they do that? You're in the process of playing for a playoff spot. It was more important for the Dolphins to try to develop the quarterback than it was to win ball games. Because why? They had traded up in the draft. I think, was it Tua taking number 5? I think he was 5 overall. Remember, if he hadn't gotten hurt, he may have been number 1. And we have to find out now. And I like what Chris Greer, the GM, and the head coach were doing. You had to figure out if your guy's the guy. You just got to figure that out right now. You have got to know immediately, as soon as possible, if this dude is your guy. Like, look at what's going on in Cleveland right now. Okay, Baker Mayfield is still making comments about his contract. Now, look, to be fair to the kid, they were asking him the question, what do you make of your contract? Well, I'm not really concerned about it. You're not? You know why you don't have a new contract? Because Cleveland's not sure yet. Cleveland saw half a season last year where you started getting it. Cleveland wants to see a full season. They want to see – watch this. Do you think it's cool that Cleveland wants to see him do it again? If I'm going to give you a superstar contract, and by the way, I think the Browns want him to be successful. They drafted him as high as they did. They want him to be the guy. They're not rooting against him. Look at all the assets they put around him. I don't think they're rooting against him. If they're going to pay him that giant money, I think it's fair that you go like this. Hey, I want to see you do it again. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Let's see you do it again. And, Mayfield's guys were like, well, we understand if, we'd like to see some conversations. And the Browns were like this. We haven't started any contract talks at all with the agent. The agents thought that he would start a liar and start kindling, some response from the Browns. And the Browns go, well, we haven't started any conversation whatsoever. And so, I haven't, begun anything here. And so the people in Cleveland are like this. I just want to see you do it. I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't think there's any problem with that, actually. Look at you think if Los Angeles with the Rams, or do you think that if the Eagles had a chance before they signed those contracts with Goff and with Wentz, you think if they had to replay that all over again, they would have went like this? Man, we got to see this guy continue to do this. I think that's why they're hedging their bets a little bit in Buffalo. Are they going to get a contract with Josh Allen? Absolutely. But let's see him do it again. We're no longer talking about $5 or $6 million any longer. Folks, we're talking about $40 million, $42 million. That number's Lamar Jackson's getting into the conversation now. Are you going to give him a super max deal, and I'll use an NBA expression, where you're paying him $45 million a year? Are you dead sure that's your guy? Because get this, if you're wrong, it's a financial disaster for your team, your cap, your career. You think that owner's not going to come crashing down on your head? If you give that guy, here, let me throw this at you here. So when Tom Brady ended up getting that starting job in New England, do you remember the sequence and how that happened? The sequence went like this. The year before, Bob Kraft gave Drew Bledsoe a $100 million contract, gave him $19.5 million signing bonus. Remember what happened? Mo Lewis, I think it was Mo Lewis who knocked out Bledsoe on that, I think it was Thursday night game, maybe a Monday night game. He destroyed him, right? All of a sudden, this dude comes in, a 6th-round guy, making $800,000 a year, Tom Brady. And all of a sudden, Bill Belichick had to go to the owner. Hey, you know the signing bonus you gave Drew Bledsoe? I'm going with Brady. Remember, he got healthy again. Bledsoe won a playoff game against Pittsburgh. Remember, there was a debate. Is Bill going to stick with Bledsoe, the experienced guy, or is he going to run with Brady? Remember he said, I'm running with Brady. That was the decision of a lifetime. And it was a financial decision of a lifetime. They got 3 years to work on their whole entire roster because Brady was making 6th-round money. Do you remember what they did with Bledsoe? They traded his ass to Buffalo in the division. They lost money, and they traded him to an enemy. The only thing that saved Belichick's ass in that whole thing, Brady won a Super Bowl. Brady started looking like he could be special. Remember what saved coaches like Shanahan and those guys in Washington? They drafted RG3. Remember they had to give up all those assets to the Rams? They drafted Kirk Cousins in like the 4th round. He covered his ass in case that dude doesn't pan out. Shanahan was right to cover his ass, wasn't he? Because RG3 gets hurt and he was never the guy. That's how that played out. That's how exactly that played out. So when you're looking at evaluating quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, we've learned too much now over the last couple of years here with those 2 contracts. I'm not going to sit here and go like this. I don't know, man. This guy looks awful good. I'm going to give him money. There's not going to be a rush to judgment any longer when you do that stuff. Nobody's going to do that. You're not going to throw that money out like you did once before. All right. We come back out of the timeout. I want to throw this at you. Deion Sanders made a very interesting comment today. I think this comes down to respect. I really like what Deion's doing. I think he's coaching at Jackson State. And he's at a historically black college, and I really love what he's doing. I think Eddie George is also at a historically black college, and all these players, these ex-players now, are trying to make an impact at the college game. I'll tell you what he said, and he brought Nick Saban into it. Again, here's a Saban comment. I guess when you're successful like that, your name is always brought in. I want to hit on that. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on three. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Your boy, Dan Sileo. Yeah, man. Hey, make no mistake about it, man. Football season is here. Real cool. You know, I thought that I thought the NBA Finals were really a great story last night. I started the show out with that too. You had this guy just leading this group of men. And you know what? Chris Middleton, that's on that team too. You know what? Do you notice something that's really old school about Giannis? He doesn't mind that guy taking big shots. He doesn't mind who takes the shot, which means he doesn't mind who gets the credit. He just wants to be part of something that's winning. I was watching that and I go, this guy's got really no ego, man. Have you ever seen a superstar too? You know, usually when you see a guy hustle the way he hustles, this guy's beating guards up the court. He hustles his ass off every single play. There's no plays off. This guy plays his ass off, man. That, you know, and last night, I'll tell you what, he was making free throws like he was Magic Johnson last night. I mean, this guy couldn't miss last night, and he's traditionally not a very good free throw shooter. It also showed me when the light was the brightest, he was the brightest. 50 points, I think only one of 7 guys ever in NBA history for the finals to have a 50-point game. I mean, he was just – Bob Pettit was like the last guy in a closeout game or something like that. Bob Pettit. I mean, I think they played with like peach baskets back when Pettit played, right? You're like, man, this guy was so great last night. But what impressed me the most was how freaking hard he ran the court, man. His energy level was just off the charts, man. You know, you usually see guys like Rodman diving after loose basketballs and seeing all that stuff. You know, you don't really ever see superstars. How many times have you watched in a game where you know you're not winning? I've even seen LeBron loafing. I've never seen that guy loaf. So that means this. When you play against a guy like Giannis, if you don't bring your A game every single day and you're praying he's not playing his A game, that kind of guy is the most impossible person to beat. God forbid he gets a mid-range shot. God forbid he improves on his free throw. He'd be unguardable. Talking about a 6'11 guy who runs like that, who's as athletic as that, and he's around the basket like Shaq, and he dominates around the basket like Shaq. Is he the face of the NBA? Yeah. I think when you take the crown from someone, now look, how about this? Let's be candid here. When you say this, a healthy Nets team, could that be different? We'll see next year with the East. Already you're talking Vegas is saying, I think I saw with the line already out, I think it's Nets, Lakers, and Bucks. I don't think that's any disrespect to the Bucks, because when you look at the players that are on those other two teams, I personally don't think the Lakers belong in that conversation, because the Lakers have AD and LeBron, and then who? Kuzma? I mean, seriously. Now, when you're talking to me about the Nets, I get it. But see, I don't trust Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant's always, on Twitter, on one of his burner accounts. And James Harden, God knows what he's doing. He ain't going to play a lick of defense. I think those three superstars, they remind me kind of what went on in Houston years ago with Barkley and Drexler and Pippen. Just never connected, man. And it can be like that. So people are saying, well, we'll see when they're healthy and what happens with Kawhi coming. I don't care, man. All I know is this. That guy plays his ass off. And he reminds me of Tom Brady. Brady's not the most talented guy to ever play that position. But Brady plays his ass off every game. Plays through injury. Plays through adversity. He's a great teammate. He's got a team ego. I think Giannis has a team ego. Giannis has an ego, but it's about winning as a group. See, how many times did you guys watch LeBron do this in his career? When things going great, hey, LeBron, it's great to be around LBJ. When things go south, he sits off to the side. He starts blaming other people. Now, Giannis doesn't do that, man. And for the last 2 years, Bucks have been bounced in the playoffs, haven't they? They've been bounced. And, he took all the criticism for that. I never said anything negative. As a matter of fact, what did he do? He signs a max deal to stay in Milwaukee. I think that just shows you there a little bit, when it comes to how he perceives himself in that city. He loves Milwaukee, man. Maybe it reminds him of Greece. I don't know. We'll see what happens over these next couple of years. Can he keep it going on? All right. Deion Sanders said something at a press conference yesterday. I want to get your thoughts here on this. Does he have a point? So Deion was at the podium. Again, no disrespect, but I think it's Jackson State that he's coaching. And he's taken this job, and he's given, no question about it, he's given notoriety to that football program. And that football program they should be very grateful that Deion Sanders is the head football coach of that team, because Deion Sanders is going to elevate the team. He's going to elevate the talent around the team. He's going to elevate the entire division. He's going to elevate the historically black colleges because he's coaching. Primetime has got that. He's got that signature image that can do that. He made a point here, though, yesterday, and I thought it was, I don't think this was race baiting. He goes, you know what? Every time I finish my press conference, I always walk away thinking, you guys don't respect me. And I'm paraphrasing this. He's talking to the media as he was addressing, the upcoming training camp that they have for their upcoming season. He goes, it's funny. Every time, somebody asks me a question, they always go, Deion. Every time you ask Nick Saban a question, you call him Coach Saban. I would like you guys to show me the same respect that you guys show Nick Saban when you call him Coach Saban. And please show me that. This is where I think Deion's wrong. Deion's living off of Primetime, the player. He's not proven anything as a coach. Nick Saban has proven that distinction, that he's a spectacular coach. Deion's living off of something in the past. He's living off his ego. That's an ego comment. When you're the defending national champion and you've got all those national championships on your desk, that's why he gets the distinction of being called coach. That's why. Not because he was one of the most spectacular cornerbacks of all time. Deion's got to get that right. You can't intertwine the two because you can't. All right. Thank you so much for coming aboard. By the way, if you missed any of the show, go over to the JAKIB Media channel, like it, share it. We really appreciate it. Krause, my boy Cal, thank you. Big Joe, we appreciate it. We'll catch you tomorrow, 4 to 6. The only place you can catch us is National Football Show.